You remember last year's first half struggles? Those are a thing of the past because Caleb Wilson is here to make sure of it.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Thursday, November 13th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network. Want to thank you for making us your first listener watch to get your Thursday going. Special shout out to all you everydayers, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and our insiders as well. Coming up on today's show, continuing to take some looks back at what's been going on through the first three games. It's been a bit of a whirlwind with Caleb Wilson taking the world by storm and Seth's injury and all that. So I want to look back at something that Caleb Wilson has done, and it's helping Carolina get off to a faster start. I got some numbers for you. Luca Bogavatz inserted into the starting lineup, and this dude, Bogey, is just getting warmed up. Also, DYLAN MINGO thought he wasn't going to be able to take a visit to Carolina. He has rescheduled. This is great news for the Tar Heels. All of that and more coming up today. So we start with Caleb Wilson. Go back with me, if you will, as painful as it is to last season. You remember, of course you remember, because we all lived through it and we all cried through it and we all said, it's fine, I'm fine, everything's fine through all of that last year, where Carolina game after game after game after game decided to just, why don't we shovel ourselves into a big old pit in the first half and then see if we can climb our way out of it. It happened in the second game of the season at Kansas. It happened in the last game of the season against Ole Miss in the NCAA tournament, and a whole bunch of games in between all that. We all witnessed it. But here's the good news this year. Caleb Wilson is here to put an end to all of that immediately. He is intent on not allowing that to be a thing. And here's what's funny. It's not actually a response to last year's first half struggle. Like, I literally created a new spreadsheet in our Locked On Tar Heels Insiders Google Drive where I was tracking how bad things got in the first half of each game and then how Carolina tried to bring their way back out of it. But what Caleb Wilson is doing, like stated goal, is that he is going to help Carolina get off to a fast start. Again, not because of last year, but simply because Caleb Wilson knows no other way to play basketball than like his hair is on fire. And if the sweet byproduct of that is that Carolina doesn't get off to these slow starts anymore, then amen, let's go Caleb Wilson. In Adam Lucas's article after the Kansas game, here's what Caleb Wilson had to say. I'm always going to bring it out of the gate. I'm going to go my hardest, no matter who we are playing or what's going on. And if you need any proof of that, let me just talk you through Caleb's first stint in each of his first three college basketball games. So from the tip to when he checks out. And let me just big picture it first by saying that Caleb has scored either Carolina's first or second basket in all three games this season. This is a dude that's ready to go. Central Arkansas, Henri Veesaar had the first basket of the season. Remember, Seth Trimble drove baseline, missed. Henri Veesaar put back. After that, Caleb Wilson had a dunk for Carolina's second basket. He then proceeded to score 6 of the 8 first points of the season and 8 of the first 12. He also had 2 rebounds and then checked out at 13:55. In the Kansas game, he had a tip dunk, a massive tip dunk for Carolina's first 2 points of that game. And he had 2 rebounds, 2 fouls drawn. Remember, he drew 10 fouls in the Kansas game. Good grief. Had another dunk, 1 assist, and 6 total points before checking out at 13:36 against Kansas. Again, scoring the first basket of the game. And Tuesday night against Radford, he had in Carolina's first basket of the game again, but had 4 of the first 6, drew 3 fouls. That was in just over 3 minutes of action, and then had 4 rebounds, an assist, and a steal. All of that leading to a 14-6 Carolina lead, a Radford timeout, as Wilson checked out at 14:38. Yeah, some of the rest of the first half was rough for Wilson against Radford, picked up that second foul and then ultimately a third foul. But Caleb Wilson is ready to go out of the gate. And quite frankly, when we look back at last season, I think a lot of the issues that were going on for the Tar Heels was somehow, some way, the guys were not locked in. Like we said so regularly right here on the podcast. And it was kind of tongue-in-cheek, kind of joking, but pretty serious at the same time. Hey, you think we could just tell these guys that the first half is the second half? Or you think we could trick them into like, hey guys, this is the second half of the basketball game when it's really the beginning? Because it was almost like immediate. The second you went to the second half, they were ready to go. And it's like, how can you not figure out how to do this out of the gate? It's kind of like the football team right now with those struggle first halves against Syracuse and Stanford, and then doing much better offensively in the second half. This year, not so much. Yes, a slow start against Kansas. Rough first half. Yes, a slow start against Radford. Again, to be understood as you're just trying to figure yourself out after Seth Trimble's injury, coming off the Kansas win, with Jarin Stevenson going down for the first 10 minutes of the game, basically, and with Caleb in foul trouble. So understandable, slow first half. But what Caleb is going to make sure that doesn't happen is that Carolina is not boring or dull or lackadaisical or any of that right out of the gate. Because when your best player, your most talented player, your NBA draft prospect, who is shooting up draft boards right now, oh, by the way, when he's the one that goes out and sets that tone, you know what it does for everybody else? It makes them follow suit. They say, oh man, if my superstar freshman is ready to rock and roll like this out of the tip, if my superstar freshman in the first half is diving on the floor after loose balls, is ripping rebounds away from Flory Badunga, etc., 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 I better get my butt in gear as well. If my pregame ritual hasn't gotten me fully ready in the past, what do I got to do now to match Caleb's intensity? I love it, and he's the one setting the tone. And it's not just leading by example. That's that leadership. You know, we've wondered, who is it that's going to step up in leadership with with Seth hurt? Well, one of the things that happened the other day is it was Caleb, and this is more from that same article from Adam Lucas. He says, quote, it was Wilson who stayed in the ear of Seth Trimble during the seniors' 1-for-6 first half. You're the best guard out here, Wilson told Trimble. Keep being aggressive. Trimble made 5 field goals in the second half and tied for the team high with 4 rebounds. This dude was leading even with Seth on the floor. Caleb Wilson is a national treasure, and we better appreciate him now. And again, so much of it is just how he's changing the dynamics of this Carolina basketball team on and off the floor. It's great stuff, and I am so glad he's a Tar Heel. Another new Tar Heel that is going to be a great asset to this team is Luca Bogavatz, who entered the starting lineup on Tuesday, and I'm here to tell you he is just getting warmed up. We'll talk about that in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel, y'all, the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game, or maybe you want to ride the hot hand later, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who's going to score next to a big fourth quarter comeback or anything in between. Plus, you could combine any or all of those into a live same-game parlay for a shot at an even bigger payout. And all of that, it keeps every game exciting because you always got something riding on the game. ACC regular season odds. Duke leads the way at plus 115, followed by Louisville at plus 220, NC State at plus 800, and then the Tar Heels at plus 1200. You think Carolina's getting gate kept there? Go ahead, get in on that action, because right now FanDuel is giving new customers just like you $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head on over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcasting network there is. Luca Bogavatz enters the starting lineup on Tuesday night for the first time of his Carolina career. It's game 3. The funny thing is, I had projected that is when he would start, but not for the reason that he would start. I had just said, hey, I think it's time to start now post Kansas, getting him up to speed all the more so and more quickly so that he'll be ready to go for the Fort Myers tip-off in that kind of role. Well, unfortunately, there's the Seth injury, and so Luca does move into the starting lineup just at shooting guard instead of small forward, instead of being the 3. All right, fine. You hate it with Seth, but I'm glad to really force Bogey to get some more time, some more minutes, trial by fire, that whole kind of thing. Let me remind you of his stat line. Played a team high 30 minutes and 44 seconds, shot 7 of 18 from the field, 3 of 11 from 3, 2 of 4 at the free throw line, 3 rebounds, tied for the team high 5 assists with Kyan Evans, 0 turnovers, 2 steals, and a team high 19 points. That's what Luca Bogavatz did in his first start as a Tar Heel. So when I say he's just getting warmed up, I mean he's just getting warmed up. Because, I had mentioned Adam Lucas's article after the Kansas game. One of the things he talked about in the post-Radford game was some conversations with Luca Bogavatz about just kind of getting going. And this summer, one of the things we said is that Luca Bogavatz is a professional. He's been playing professionally for the last couple of years in the Adriatic League. And so whenever it is he gets to Carolina, he's going to be ready to rock and roll. And he is, but I think that might be a little bit misleading. And maybe we didn't do enough to account for all the various ways in which Luca Bogavatz has to acclimate himself to being in America, being in Chapel Hill, being on a Division I campus, learning the ways and means of Carolina basketball, learning to be a student in that regard as a 22-year-old, right? Like all of these and more factors are all part of what he's going through. And then you add on that the fact that it's like, hey, I got my NCAA clearance. I'm good to go, baby. But then he's got to wait. And then literally in the lead up to the game against Central Arkansas for the tip-off of the season, we find out that he's eligible. We're only like a week and a half after that moment. And so it's no wonder that Bogey is taking his time getting acclimated. But you can already see the strides, right? The shot is always beautiful. I mean, the form is there. The decision-making. This guy has, not only tied for the team high in assists on Tuesday against Radford, has 11 assists and 1 turnover on the season. He's making great decisions. As I referenced Adam Lucas's article. As Adam pointed out, his 5 assists were to 4 different players in this game against Radford. And there's just so much that he is doing. And I love it because while he led the team, and while after an 0 for 6 start, he was much better after that 7 of 12 from the field, 3 of 6 from beyond the arc. Here's what he said to the Tar Heel Sports Network after the game. Personally, quote, I have to find my rhythm. I will spend more time working and be more comfortable, and my play will be better for sure. My teammates put me in a great spot to enable me to lead the team in scoring, but I missed everything tonight. I can't depend on my shooting ability only. I want to contribute to winning and make good plays for others. I can play better defense. I must. I cannot tell you how valuable, how invaluable Luca Bogavatz's previous basketball experiences are, and how invaluable his leadership as somebody that's done it at a higher level and has lived more life than most of these guys, save Seth, right? He's 22. And so Luca brings this professionalism where he's saying, sure, I led the team in scoring. Cool. It doesn't matter. Yes, it matters that we got the win, and that's great. But I'm ready for more. And I know I wasn't the best version of myself tonight, right? Like, yes, he took, what was it, 18 shots? But man, he's so quick twitch. He can get that shot off in a hurry, and it looks good so often. It's going to come. The floodgates are going to open, and it's going to be a deluge, I believe, sooner rather than later. Will it be tomorrow night against NC Central? Maybe. Will it be next Tuesday against Navy? Maybe. We'll see. But at some point, it's going to come, and then I feel like at that point, the pump has been primed, and Bogey's going to be rolling. So never fear on that. But you hear his veteran leadership in saying, hey, basically, I let my teammates down. They've set me up, and I was just missing tonight. But he kept shooting. That's the critical thing. Mark Campbell would be screaming at how happy he was that Bogey just continues to get shots up. But I also love that Bogey recognizes on a night like Tuesday night, if all the shots aren't falling, he's got to do other stuff, whether that's getting to the rim for closer shots, whether that's continuing to be a playmaker and allow Carolina to function with, both he and Kyan. Again, a combined 10 assists, 2 turnovers in that game. And talking about playing better defense, all of this stuff. It's clear that he gets it. He gets basketball at a high level. He understands like the Carolina way. That matters to Bogey. And I love him for that. So I think he's one of those guys that we're really going to enjoy just see him just continue to grow throughout the season. And it's going to have to be faster now because he's going to be in the starting lineup. And I think that's ultimately a good thing for Carolina, that while, yes, he has been a pro, there's a bunch of stuff he's got to learn, right? Like things are in America, we play kind of a different brand of basketball. So he's got to learn that. But also, what's the best of his Adriatic League stuff that he can bring to the table and fuse it all together? And as he figures that out, I think you're just going to see Bogey skyrocket. And again, that's the great thing, is that this team, if you're just talking about strictly scoring, has so many guys that can beat you. It might be Caleb again tomorrow night. It might be Henri as the leading scorer. It might be Bogey again, as it was Tuesday night. It could be Kyan Evans. He only had 3 points on Tuesday night, but man, he facilitated this team well, right? Like it's just, there's so much there. But Bogey is just getting warmed up, and I can't wait to see when the floodgates are going to break. Now, eventually these guys are all going to move on, and they've got to be replaced with a new crop of Tar Heels. 5-star guard DYLAN Mingo was supposed to come to Carolina last weekend for a visit for the Kansas game, but thanks government shutdown, his flight was canceled. But here's the good news. That wasn't the only shot. I'll explain coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Supply House, when the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, electrical items from the most trusted brands in the entire business. They've got real-time inventory and honest lead times that keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Do you need parts fast for a project? Great news. Supply House has next day delivery. Talk about a game changer. They've got part finder tools and 3D schematics that can save you hours on jobs when literally every detail matters. They've got a Trademaster Perks program. The perks are things like priority shipping, dedicated support, lower prices, etc. So go ahead and join that Trademaster program for free today to get all of those perks. And then visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. Again, that's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. DYLAN Mingo is one of the elite, not just guards, but players in the entire class of 2026. I was super stoked because he was supposed to come to Carolina for the Kansas game last Friday. And oh, baby, what a show he would have seen in that second half. But then the bad news broke a couple days before. I can't remember specifically what day it was, that because of, the TSA had mandated, or whoever, maybe it was the FAA, I guess it was actually mandated some flight reductions because of everything. Like I flew to Dallas today or as not today as you're listening to this, yesterday as you're listening to or watching this, I flew to Dallas on Wednesday, and the flight I was originally supposed to be on was canceled. I learned about it Monday, so I was able to catch a different flight, but like that's what's going on right now. And so we learned that DYLAN Mingo's flight has been canceled. And I think there's two reactions you immediately have to that. Number one can be, that's fine. He'll just reschedule and come another time. But the other response is, I've seen that story before, and that player ends up never coming and commits elsewhere. We've seen both of those things happen. So here's the good thing. The flight got canceled, but the visit did not. Yes, it's a bummer that Mingo had to miss the Kansas game, but it's coming this weekend. The visit is rescheduled. And while it's not a sexy opponent, it is the NC Central game, and that's going to be great. Something we've been trying to find some silver linings of the Seth Trimble side of things. Remember, one of the things that Seth had talked a lot about is as all of the potential transfers were coming in to visit campus last offseason, he was the one that got invited to all those dinners and kind of led the way because he's the senior captain. Well, guess what? Seth Trimble's not able to play right now. So you know who's able to probably spend a little bit more time with Mr. DYLAN Mingo? Carolina's injured senior captain guard, who plays the same position, who plays guard. He's a backcourt player just like DYLAN Mingo. Now, they're not the exact same player. You understand that. But maybe a silver lining is that Seth is able to spend some very intentional time with this young man and or his family and help really sell him on the vision of North Carolina. Not to trick him into anything, but to help him really feel like if this is the place for me, then I'm all in. And look, you see it already in the first couple of exhibition games and the first 3 games of the season, how critically important having at least that one game-changing freshman can be. In this day and age, quite frankly, I don't want a whole crop of 4 or 5-star freshmen on the same thing, because then you got to rely on all that, and that's not a good recipe. Maybe occasionally, but most of the time, no. The outliers for that to go well. But if you can surround a Caleb Wilson with Seth Trimble and bringing in Henri Veesaar and Jarin Stevenson coming home and Kyan Evans coming, et cetera, that is a recipe for winning. So DYLAN Mingo, who is number 4 overall at Rivals and the number 1 point guard, who's number 5 overall at 247 and the number 2 combo guard, and number 9 overall at ESPN. It don't matter where you look, this is a top 10 player, and at the majority of the sites, a top 5 player. If you can bring him in and have that talent around him like Carolina does with Caleb Wilson, there's so many great possibilities. Mingo, in case you don't know or don't remember, is a 6'5" senior guard, about 190. Goes to Long Island Lutheran there in New York. People call it, you might have heard of LU-High. That is Long Island Lutheran. And so, this is the same school. VJ Edgecombe that played at Baylor last year that got drafted. He's an alum. Kyan Anthony, Carmelo's son, who's playing actually in his father's footsteps at Syracuse right now, is an alum. And then also, Dylan's older brother, Caden, is a freshman at Penn State right now. Obviously, they played together in high school and had a great thing. What's interesting for Mr. DYLAN Mingo is that this is his 7th visit. He's been to UConn. That would make some sense. It's up in near his home. Alabama. We know all the recruiting battles we've had with Alabama. In fact, what's up, Jarin Stevenson? Glad you came home. Washington, Miami, Baylor, same place that VJ Edgecombe went. So there might be a little pipeline there from Lehigh to Waco. And also, he's visited Penn State. Cards on the table, I don't know how serious that is, but it makes sense that he would visit the same school where his brother is enrolled, right? Just that's something to keep in mind and think about. And his brother, Caden, is not as high level a recruit as is DYLAN, but he was like top 40 in this year's class. So maybe, Carolina, if they could convince DYLAN to come, maybe it's a little 2-for-1, and he and Caden transfers from Penn State down to Chapel Hill. That wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Now, if I'm this family, if I'm the Mingo family, and I'm starting to think about, all right, what kind of role could I play? Well, one of the nice things about Mingo is, again, 6'5" guard. And that is what Hubert Davis is hunting, positional size. So he's going to try to do everything he can to sell him on that. Come here, be Kobe White or whatever it is. But this dude is a bucket. He's an assister. He's a rebounder, and he does a little bit of everything. But one of the questions I would want to know if I'm Dylan, if I'm his family, is to say, hey, if I were to come to Chapel Hill, I know Seth Trimble has to graduate unless something weird happens here with his healing and he redshirts. But Luca Bogavatz could still be around. Kyan Evans could still be around. Derek Dixon, Isaiah Dennis, Jonathan Powell, Jaden Young. All of those dudes could still be on this roster. Sell me on this vision. How would it work out? Here's the truth for me. I am a proponent of saying, give me the best talent and we'll figure it out, right? Like that. Like I hate it when NBA teams don't draft a guy because they've already got that position. Play them both. It's positionless basketball. What are we talking about? So, I think the selling point is we would love it if Kyan Evans, we would love it if Bogey is still here, because then you could play alongside of them. And Coach Davis likes to have 2 point guards, right? Like there's possibilities there. Now, what you have to be careful for is the depth behind them. What would that mean for Dixon and Dennis and Powell and Young? We'd have to watch out for all of that, right? Because there is already great depth at the guard spot. And at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the kind of thing that might scare Dylan Mingo off. But this guy, I mean, at the NBPA Top 100 camp this summer, Kristen Peete called him the runaway MVP. Averaged 23.8 points, 6.8 assists, and 6.5 rebounds. I mean, it's absurd stuff that Dylan Mingo does. So looking forward to getting him onto campus and maybe eventually being a North Carolina commit. That would be great. One other quick note on the way out the door here. Women's basketball has their first big test of the season tonight. The ladies are 2-0, not having allowed more than 42 points in a game. But all due respect, their opponents have been North Carolina Central and Elon. So, duh. But it gets real tonight. It's the WBCA Challenge in Vegas. Carolina will play 2 games, an easier game on Saturday when they'll take on Fairfield. But tonight, the Tar Heels, number 11 in the nation, take on number 3 UCLA. That's 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. That is a doozy of a game and a great test for this team. What I'm hopeful for, it's been a week since they last played. Can Renaya Kelly get back to being fully in game shape? Will Blanca be able to play? All of that kind of stuff. How will the newcomers, whether transfers or freshmen, the Kylas, right? Like, how will they do in a moment like this? I can't wait to find out, but it should be an electric game for the Lady Tar Heels against the Bruins. Make it happen. All right, guys, that's it for today's show. Great to be together. Joining me tomorrow, Anthony Pagnotta from Heel Tough Blog will help us get ready for the North Carolina Central game on Friday night, as well as the game at Wake Forest in football on Saturday, as well as the rest of the weekend whip around. Going to be a lot of fun. If you haven't subscribed to our great show, do it right now. Locked On Tar Heels. You see it if you're on YouTube down there in the corner. And if you're on audio, just subscribe on your favorite audio platform. If you haven't joined the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, I simply ask you, why not? It's free. You've got nothing to lose. Come check it out. It's a great site with now close to 600 fans hanging out, chatting together, trying to curate that to be a very healthy place for you to come be a real Tar Heel fan. And if you want to go even deeper with it all, come join the Locked On Tar Heels Insiders. Great perks there and a great way to help support the show. You guys, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll be back tomorrow, but until then, peace.